What move can the Blazers make in the next week that would make them better in the long term, but not in the immediacy? Because we talk about this with the trade deadline being a week from today. We look at it and we say, you got to make a move. You got to move on to some guys from some guys. This team is winning too many games right now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you look at it from the aspect of, all right, well, if you're going to make a move, what does that look like right now?
I think for the Trailblazers, the thing you're looking at is moving a veteran for a younger player. Some version of that. And I don't think Jeremy Grant is going to be that guy. I think if they ultimately deal him, it's for a protected first kind of a deal. The ones that kind of always get floated is like moving Anthony Simons for some package to Orlando that includes a Anthony Black or a Jet Howard. A younger player, Anthony Black, a 6'7" guard wing type, who is not going to give you 25 points a game. Like the Blazers lose Anthony Simons and don't bring back 20-plus points per game, they're going to get worse. Like you can talk about Scoot and Shade and all you want. They haven't produced at the level that he has over years. They're plenty capable of turning in a nice game.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about the NBA that leads to winning, it's not just talent, it's consistency within talent. And even Ant has struggled with that this year. So if you do that and you swap him out for one of those kind of guys, then yeah, I think you're looking at definitely taking a step back. But in the long term, somebody that could develop a little bit later. I think
you said Jet Howard,
yeah,
Juwan's kid.
Juwan's kid, yeah, he's a shooter.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit lower on him than I would be like an Anthony Black, but I'm just kind of looking at young guys that are out there. Another one would be like Rob Williams and something, because they would need to find something.
Both those guys, Anthony Black and Jet Howard, by the way, Orlando.
Yeah, Orlando Magic. Yep. Rob Williams and something to Houston for Jabari Smith Jr. Rob Williams, when he's on the floor, is one of the best defensive players in the NBA. There's no arguing that. That's what he is. And Jabari Smith is not. Like, I like Jabari Smith Jr. In fact, in that draft, I liked him as the number one overall guy. I still think there's something there that's kind of untapped, but he also looks like he's a guy that's going to get squeezed out in Houston. Now, nothing that I'm saying right now is like deals that have been discussed or reported or anything along those lines. These are like the idea of what I think would impact them negatively in the immediacy, but in the long term could pay to potential dividends.
Help them out in the long run.
Yes. But a guy like Jabari Smith Jr., who 6'10", shoot the ball, plus defender, still young, still growing, like can kind of continue to go with this core and kind of matches more of the timeline, so to speak, that everybody wants to bang the drum on. Mm-hmm. So sick and tired of anybody being over 24 years old. People are screaming about, he's not on the same timeline. I'm like, you don't know what Scoot Henderson or Shaedon Sharpe or Donovan Clingan or anybody's going to be. There's two players on this roster right now that I'm sure of, as far as like mattering going forward. 100%. Toumani Camara and Denny Avdia. Beyond that, still a lot of show me. So if you can go out there and stockpile guys.
You wouldn't put Clingan in there yet?
No. Look, no. Do I think he's on the upswing? Absolutely. Yeah. But has he absolutely shown it? No. Because I still have questions about how many minutes he can play.
Well, yeah, and that's a big thing that we keep getting the text of, why isn't Clingan playing more minutes? Well, every time he gets ramped up, he gets hurt again. Well, like that's also a big part of it, though. Like,
I don't necessarily think it's that, because I think it's been unfortunate with an MCL and an ankle, of which in 2 years of college basketball he didn't have those.
Sure, yeah.
I think the bigger issue is that physically he's just not capable of playing those minutes. And the example that I go back to, and they're like, how does somebody do this and come to the NBA and not be able to play X amount of minutes? It's like pretty easy. He's 7'3", 290 pounds. And I had somebody on the text line yesterday said, so is Shaq. And it's like, okay, if you want to talk about the most physically dominant human being in the history of the NBA as your marker for what somebody should or shouldn't be able to do, go with God. But he's one of 1 billion.
Yeah.
Like that's you're not gonna see that ever again. Shaq was playing at 430 pounds. He's talked about it publicly and about how big he actually was. You can say, well, the league was playing slower. No, that dude is just different. Zach Edey didn't come out in the draft the year before because he went to the combine and they said, you can't run.
Can't run. And what did he do in the combine this past year that everybody said, Oh, okay.
He spent an entire year getting his body right in college, and Purdue ran the entire offense through him. He anchored the defense. Like, he got his body in shape. And guess what? He's 2 years older than Donovan Clingan.
Yeah.
Like, am I surprised that a 7'3", 290-pound kid is not in NBA shape at 20 and 21 years old? No, not at all. The idea that these guys, like, there's probably 2 or 3 guys every single year who come into the NBA draft who are physically ready. Like, in every way, shape, matter, or form. They have the strength, they have the coordination, they have the balance, their diet is right, they work out the right way, and they're not always at the top of the draft. Like, that's where you see like a second round. Tumani is a perfect example of like, no, but also he's a 4-year college guy. Like, there's an understanding. Like, I'll never forget this because it was funny as hell what happened. There's Sear Little, who was a very bursty, strong, athletic, built dude. Flat out said, I ate like crap. He's like, I was eating Chipotle like twice a day, eating chips and candy. It's like,
not great, Bob.
But when he sat down with a nutritionist and actually understood like what he was doing as opposed to what he should be doing, it was drastically different. Anthony Simon's like, it
takes time to be a pro.
It takes time to be a pro.
Yeah.
They're kids, man. So, but coming back to the whole idea of like what they could do that would negatively impact them, so to speak, in the beginning, but help them on the back end. It's getting more young talent or assets to allow them to go acquire young talent like a Denny Avdia.
See, this is where I think the discussion needs to be had here in Portland because, look, everybody's like, make a move. Well, what does that move look like? Because the move will have to look something like, it doesn't help Portland win games right now, but in the future it will.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the immediacy, you don't want to be winning
and
a high volume of games. And
I don't think
that's a fact.
They're chasing wins. And I know people are like, well, they've been winning. It's like, yeah, but they're not chasing wins for the sake of like getting in the play-in. If they go out there and Scoot plays 25 minutes, Shaden plays 32 minutes, Denny plays 32 minutes, 2 plays 32 minutes, Donovan can play 15 to 18 minutes, like, and they win, they're okay with that. Now, is that the right way to go about it? I don't know. I push back and forth on it, but if that's let's say they shut down the veterans, they shut down and or trade Ant, Jeremy, not DA because he won't be really a part of that, I don't think, but one of DA or Rob, and Tease hasn't played, and it is what it is, but. And the kids are playing all the minutes and they win games, are people going to be mad? Probably.
Yes, they will be, because this is one of the framing things that the Blazers organization is sending those mixed signals, right? Like, this was a year where it was like expectations not going to be high, tempering every expectation, especially after. And they were open about this aspect of it with the expectations that came in surrounding Scoot Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
They said it was far too high, kind of our bad.
Organizationally, we probably put too much on them. Yep.
Hand up. We are bad on that one. We are going to lower the bar. And so fans came into this season saying, okay, well, we're lowering our bar too. And now they're not reaching that bar. They're actually over the bar.
Get under the bar.
And fans are like, no. Our bar has been lowered. And that bar is also the ceiling. We do not want to reach the ceiling.
Coming into the season, they organizationally, they said it. We're not going to measure this season with wins and losses.
Wins and losses, yeah.
That was the line. We're not going to measure with wins and losses. It's about growth.
But to your point, if those young guys are growing, then organizationally they have reached what they set out for the season.
Even if you end up winning a couple extra games along the way.
But with this draft, that is a big issue.
Yeah.
Because it's
not last year's
good
draft.
It is at the top.
Last year's draft, you could do that because everybody knew what it was. And look, it's turned out exactly like everyone thought. Like exactly like everyone thought.
Yeah.
Bunch of good guys.
Yeah.
But this draft, Dylan and Cooper and Dylan are special, and there's people that believe in Ace Bailey and Kasparas Giakousionis. Like, I think there's 4 or 5 guys in this draft now. There's 2 guys with all NBA potential. Like, 3 if you put Ace in that. And then there's probably some guys that have some real all-star level potential.
So to get to get the framing for people that are out there, it would be you send a vet out and you get a guy like an Anthony Black from Orlando, like a Jet Howard from Orlando, a Jabari Smith Jr. from Houston, and in the immediacy, nope, doesn't really help you win games now, but in the future, you're projecting on the long term and that ramp up. And assets is an interesting one, and I want to get to that next because you mentioned something that really hasn't been a trigger for a lot of Blazer fans in getting assets and what those could look like as well.